Meeting to order, huh?
Yep.
Coming live to you from the town garage.
So, I know Scott was out here today talking with Brian a little bit. I know Brian has his ideas of out here. So, I guess we're just here to try to figure out if there is a spot. If we want to take the money and time this year to create a spot. I don't know.
What do we figure we need? I mean, do we think we need it to be a lockable fenced thing, or do we think we can have it similar to what we... I mean, I think we probably want it fenced so that we're not spreading stuff around, but I'm not sure it needs to be locked. I think it would be...
Well, I think you made it fairly clear that putting it outside of the gate
would be desirable.
I really don't want it in there.
Yeah,
just because when there's nobody around, you know, somebody has their kids with them, they get climbing on a plow, they go over the sandbank.
All manner of liability.
There's just too much stuff.
No, I would agree.
So if we look around at what we've got here, you know, space-wise to work, we've got a wetland area here. This becomes sort of a logical general area. There's some drawbacks with, you know, the fact that...
How wet is it in there? Sorry to interrupt. Is that running water, or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, it's usually got there's a spring over in there, so it's I mean, down on the other side of the gate is where the ditch line is that runs down around. That's obviously
I would suspect we'd have to jump through some hoops in order to do some work. Take it easy.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty dry enough here.
And we own...
I don't actually know.
We'll have to look.
If the actual map area is the old dump and whatnot, remember there used to be a little house right here.
I'm only 30 years old.
I know,
I don't
okay.
remember that.
But that was where the dump keeper lived, and I would imagine that property is part of this. But I mean, that for sure we should have that. Before we make any.
I mean, I guess what kind of seems logical is maybe the bottom of that bank around.
Right. Cut that up back a little bit and do this. Unfortunately, this power pole sits right in the middle of it. But the other issue is, you know, okay, you can fence it off, you then limit access.
I think that one of the things, I mean, I know this is more off the beaten path for people, but I think one of the things was the 24/7 access. The amount that we get is what drove the cost up so high. So that's why we had talked about.
But I don't think we'll get that amount just because we're relocating.
I don't know, because all these other towns are getting rid of their, like.
Yeah, but if people don't know where it is,
the other
thing we could
that
do.
That's low on my arguments about it. You know, that I think it would be kind of tucked away here, and if you don't make a big deal about it, people just know that it's here. Of course, no, you know, there always will be, if it's open, there always will be people that abuse it. But it already occurs now. People
and are we? Do you know? I mean, I think in Brattleboro, the recycling that's by the highway department, it has signage that says for Brattleboro residents only. I don't know whether, if we're part of a district, I don't know what the regulations.
I don't think that one's even there anymore. Didn't they pull that out of there?
Yeah.
No, not.
It's up in the high school, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
Maybe it's still there.
Yeah, by the
by
the playing field and exactly.
Field.
Yeah. As far as I know, last time I went by, I think it was still there.
Maybe it is.
I didn't know that if they were part of the district, if they could
that they
limit
can restrict it. I don't know either, but we could find that out. But, you know, even to have sort of simple signage saying for Putney, you know, I mean, regardless of, even if it's for the district, it's clearly not for New Hampshire, Massachusetts, etc., which, as we've all observed, we get all that. And not that we don't want people to recycle.
No, we just, like last week, we had 2 people call from other neighboring towns, one Saxon's River, wondering what we were going to do, because that's where they did the recycling, was there. And we told them what was going on, and that we're going to try, you know, we need to limit it as much as we can to Putney residents. We're going to be paying the bill. and but that hasn't been totally determined what we're going to be doing.
Well,
So-
and maybe we, fence it, keeping in mind, I mean, for example, if we were to do chain link, what do we need? It'll be single stream, right?
depends on who you go with.
It depends, right?
So maybe if it's probably either
Whether it's
single
one
stream or
dumpster
maybe
or-
2 dumpsters, but probably not 3. I
Yeah.
wouldn't think.
Well, no, because even the what do we
Because
have down
Good
here
Enough
now?
does either, they do single stream and cardboard,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
Um,
yes, I think you're
so
right.
if we
'cause
were
that's
to
what I
do Craig,
remember.
it would be 2. If it were Triple T or Ruggiero, it would probably be just 1.
Yeah.
But if we made it, for example, a U-shaped fenced-in area that was big enough to house 2 dumpsters, and at some point we needed to add gates across the front, put in sufficient size poles on the front corners so that we could add gates if we needed to.
To be honest with you, I don't really even like putting a gate on it at all, because if you put a gate on it, that's where the stuff's going to be on the outside. So then we got to pick it up every morning.
Yeah.
So at least if there's a gate knot on it, at least it's hopefully
Well,
most of it's in a
And
dumpster.
The other thing to consider here is this is a pretty limited little road coming in here.
Cameras.
No, it's not so much that, but you have a busy day on a Saturday morning. You've got 5, 6 cars here. The snow starts, people are coming in and out of the town garage. This is a tight, we'd have to create a
little
fairly
more access.
sizable,
Yeah.
body here. So, if we're going to go that route,
The other thing that's not real great is
seriously think it through and design it to accommodate.
Yeah.
right at the
Some
top of the
different
hill.
scenarios.
That's kind of a blind corner there. I mean, you get a dump truck coming down in and somebody coming up out that's not paying attention, and they're looking at the turkey that's down over the bank, and it's on a day where you got 6, 7 dump trucks hauling in here, hauling sand, and
Right.
that's gonna.
The argument exists that it's already in a public access, emergency driveway
Yeah.
at the fire department and whatnot, but that's a lot larger, more visual. There's room
Well, and it's
for
not
vehicles
as
to turn.
in
There's
and out
room for
active
vehicles
as-
to get around. This is a kind of a compact little spot down here.
And the-
I mean, I'm sure we could root out enough of this bank and do that to do it, but is that the cost? Do we want to go in the dump business?
The other, the
We
other
already
part.
belong to the district. They're going to continue to offer recycling bins in. Sure, it's the location's a little farther, but if you're driving from, a number of points in Putney, it's a long haul down to the firehouse
Yeah.
to dump your recycling.
The other.
Yes, it's disaccommodating. It's maybe a little inconvenience at first, but
Well, I think that for right now, though, I think up here, because we're gonna have more of that discussion down at the meeting as far
Yeah.
as
Yep.
different options besides this. But this was more of, if we're talking about here, this is the space that we're looking at.
Yeah.
I'd really say it's your only option. If this is what gets decided on, that
Right.
I don't know where else you go.
And it seems like,
there's-
one
there's-
possibility,
there's
Brian, is to
space.
sort of take this pile and put it over there and just create a larger pad here. Either way, we're going to have it so that if they're taking the big cans, we're going to have to be far enough back from that wire, so that's not an issue.
Yeah.
So, we'd have to push back in there somewhat, but that's just Phil.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But if this, if we opened up enough in here so that this could get moved around, that, like you're saying, 5 or 6 cars,
Okay, so the
just
next
need
the
enough
next thing
space.
about this space is, if it's decided that we do something here, are we thinking that the road crew is going to do some work? Are we going to contract some work? What is your schedule? I mean, because
good place to try that new excavator out.
I'm just
right.
No, I think that's. I don't know. That would be up to Brian. You know, I mean, I think that, or that would be my opinion, that it would be up to Brian.
Yeah.
You know, we'd clearly have to bring in material.
Yeah.
You know, probably start with something fairly bony.
Yeah.
And then work your way up.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be pretty, you know, one thing you don't want to be doing is having to muck around in mud
Right.
season, etc. You want to build a decent pad for it, so
Right.
it's going to be stable.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I want to, because we're going to have to get estimates of everything, because we've got $40,000 to spend,
Including trucking.
Including
fees.
trucking.
including
Right.
trucking for
the
12
remaining
months.
6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and really, all of this needs to be in place by July 1st.
Yeah, yes, ideally, but we have Brattleboro. I mean, you know, if it's not in place by July 1st, do we need to contract with them? If it's, I mean, you know, I'm not saying it shouldn't be in place by July 1st,
Well, I
but if
mean-
it's not in place till July 15th, it's not going to. Kill
No,
anybody, but-
then we're into even seriously busy season.
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, I mean, I think probably a decision needs to be made on it well ahead. It's whether it gets done or not. I mean, you know, try to aim for.
I'm just saying July 1st because that's when they go away down there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if people are going to get used
Yeah.
to them not being there for a month because we're not ready by July 1st, all of a
Well,
sudden
that
they
might
find out
be the way to weed out all the people that are coming from elsewhere.
they might.
Get rid of it all together and
Well,
then
they might
quietly
find
tuck
out
them
that
back
they
in
figured
here.
out a different way too. I don't know.
I think that is, in a way, the course that we should follow. Instead of
Do it
trying to
quiet.
just-
No, you mean going slower? You mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to figure out what this is going to cost. I mean, we've only got
Yeah.
set aside $40,000 for this. You know,
But you're
and
figuring
expecting
was that if it was pretty much limited to the town of Putney, our trucking fees were likely to
I
be
based
sort
the-
of high teens.
Yeah, about
Right, but
18,
we haven't
20.
seen- but
But
until
that
we
was
see
based
those
off
figures-
of
Right, we don't know.
and
that
Yeah.
was based
right,
off
so
of
that's-
numbers from towns that had limited hours.
Right. Oh, it was?
Yes.
Okay.
From the neighboring towns that had limited hours and smaller tonnage. So that's what that number is based off of.
Do we know what other towns are doing yet?
Not really.
Do we know if, like, the WSWMD, are they going to expand their recycling capability? Because what I'm wondering,
They're gonna
No, they're down. They're shutting down.
right? I mean to dump it. I mean to dump recycling
for containers.
for containers. Because if all of a sudden all these towns don't have anywhere to take it, that place is going to be a zoo.
It's
Yeah.
already a zoo down there
Yeah.
for recycling. It's
Yeah.
terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, they have very limited space.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, I mean they're going to have roll-off bins just like we have here. How many? I don't know.
right. Because that's, I mean, if they're not going to have much, if they're not going to fix their infrastructure there for recycling, people aren't going to have an option, and that's when you're going to start seeing stuff dumped everywhere.
I mean, their option is going
Right.
to be to
Yeah.
hire a hauler that has
Which-
to take it their recycling.
Right, which
Right.
does take
Yeah,
us right
that's
back to if we, looking into what a hauler costs, and have the two, one or two bins sit where they currently are. Which I realized the drawback to that was the public view considerations.
Right.
of
I
it
mean,
being in that spot.
but if we
also-
needed to buy ourselves some time by doing that, we
Right,
could.
that
but
puts that date.
this is not a. It's not a massive project. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's not.
No, I mean,
how?
cut some trees and.
What's your sense of this, Brian? If you're gonna have to hog a whole lot of this out in order to do something in here, or
I mean,
take the top 12 inches off and then.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick.
I mean, most of it's pretty low anyway, so you probably
Right.
wouldn't have much trouble getting at least a foot of material just to get it leveled
Covered
up
over.
down
Yeah.
there.
And then you're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I
I mean, that's.
What's that?
where's the public sand pit go?
This.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe tuck that guy over there.
I mean,
Have it sort of be a dual
a
purpose.
part of this, right, of this overall.
That this becomes a larger sort of public area. I mean, it's hard,
If
it's hard
there's
to tell
a
exactly what's going on back there.
creek back here, there are certain setbacks.
Well,
that you
I'm
need
gonna.
for
I wrote
stuff like that?
I wrote myself a note about that to look at the. Well, obviously we need to know where our boundaries are, and then what there is for water issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
between the rare swamp, bird and the old Indian burial ground that's not too far from here. Plus, God only knows what we're going to dig into.
About an old Indian burial ground?
Great Scott.
Plus, also excavating
He's
around
so helpful.
on the site of the old dump.
talk
God
about
only knows
wetlands
what's
and now
underneath all
burial
of this.
I'm with him. Yeah. I mean, definitely probably going to have to at least hire somebody to take that tree down with it.
Oh, come on, you're getting soft.
Yeah.
Basswood, it'll go right where you want it.
Right. Yeah, no, it doesn't. One side wouldn't be too bad. That's
No,
leaning
that
pretty
side
hard
will-
that way
I
anyway.
do
go
have
all
to.
right.
I do. If this comes about, we are going to get really good cameras for up here.
Yeah.
I am
No, I agree.
worried after what just happened
Yeah.
last night
Yep.
or the
Yeah.
other night. I'm really worried about a lot of activity around here. People understanding.
Well, I think we have a little extra cash, so we might be able to buy a camera or two.
Yeah, but
That's one thing-
monitor the amount of illegal dumping and all that stuff,
I
and
totally
start
agree.
really.
Yeah, no,
start really.
and good signage as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
because-
be clear with our signage, because I think that's something, I think there's...
And I think it needs to be known that if it gets abused or there's a problem,
It's gonna go
got to
away.
go away.
Yeah.
Again, I can't, not to harp on it, but to cycle it back to continuing to have the pickup where we currently do, that's a good spot to have a camera set up. Also, the fact that the cops are in and out of there. Often that's where Windham County Sheriffs or even
So,
state
are
police
you
will say,
suggesting leaving them there just
I'm
wide
suggesting
open the
that
way
if-
they are now?
as opposed to
Well, I'm just saying that
Yeah,
the
no,
estimated
I-
cost for that is $60,000 a year.
what's
That's
that? That's keeping them
24/7 there, wide open, and
with
that.
the 3 dumpsters.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the amount of tonnage that goes into those things. That was the whole reason why. I mean,
Okay, but we haven't had somebody actually give us a quote, have we?
I got a quote based off of the tonnage we've had on an average for the last 3 years
Okay.
there.
As opposed to a single stream dumpsters, single.
They go by tonnage and
by
number of trips.
Tonnage alone.
Yeah,
Okay. Well.
yeah. That
okay.
was the reason we.
Right.
I don't think anybody's opposed to maybe the location with some limited hours, but that
I'm
means
just wondering
fencing.
how we were coming up with a figure of in the high teens for haulage.
That's how much different the amount of material we haul out of there compared to the neighboring towns that have limited hours on off the beaten path.
Right, but what if we were to find that ours was still high? In other words,
Even out here.
Right, even here.
It could be. I
Right.
mean, we're
is
notoriously
the
known.
amount of tonnage that we're hauling out of down there, which is a difficult thing to, put a number on, but is that because it's open to, more than the...
I think that's
Yeah.
a large part of it.
I think it's a. When I sent these
Anecdotally,
messages-
but I
right.
always see out-of-state plates, and there's a ton of people that stop there, and it's
I mean, our total tonnage is 311 compared to, I want to say here's some right here. We're higher than the Brattleboro location.
they
And then, well, not the public works site. We're not higher than them. But then you go to these other towns, they're down to less than 100 ton.
Well, Dummerston, let's say.
113 in Marlboro. Newfane 173.
173, but they may be in a fairly because they probably get
Oh, that's
Route
right.
30.
And
They probably
Marlboro-
get Route 30 traffic. I don't know what the population of Marlboro
By,
is.
I
Yeah.
happened to notice the Marlboro dumpsters as we were going by.
Where are they? Right on Route 9 somewhere?
Yeah, they're off of Route 9, and they're kind of a little down and all. They're quite visible from Route 9 and whatnot. But I don't know. I guess it would be.
I mean, we can talk about all this back at the
Yeah.
office too, but Westminster was 102. Vernon was 86. I kind of used towns that had similar population.
Sure.
Westminster's almost identical, isn't it, population-wise?
Yeah, they're a little higher. They're 3,200.
So.
But if all of Westminster West brings it to Putney, then
That's true.
You know.
You're right. Yeah.
because that's the way they're coming. So
Probably.
that's
Yeah.
A lot of Dummerston comes to
Certainly a
Putney.
significant chunk of
most
it.
of Westminster West. They think they
Yeah.
they live in Putney. They have a Putney address.
Yep.
So
It's
So that was the reason for that location not being feasible anymore at the volume that we take in there and the amount of hours. I mean, I was talking about maybe we should leave it there and put a fence around there and have 2 bins, and then it's only open certain hours instead of the.
Yeah, but then somebody has to man it
Right.
to figure out those hours, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's not as long as somebody doesn't have to be there, that's not a huge
Right.
issue.
Say
But
we go through
just
all
to
of
open up,
this,
and we end up
create
with the
this,
same tonnage.
and we end up with a similar, perhaps slightly reduced, but still
Yeah,
similar
it's gonna be-
tonnage. Then we're
in the same boat.
we're in this hole deeper and
The
whatnot.
only
Then I
other
think
when the alternative exists right now, that if we don't restore this service or take up the slack on this service, if we do not go into the dump business,
then it's not our
and
issue.
then
Yeah.
until this gets resolved on a more regional based solution, which has been our recycling process for the last 20 years, I mean, it's a bigger problem than each individual town is going to have this problem. And it
the
behooves
ones
us
that
to
are
work.
the ones that have curbside recycling. They're the ones that are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
well,
Better to have the least headaches,
Yeah, they're not.
but
yeah,
they also pay
pay a lot of money.
chunk of
Exactly.
money.
No,
Yeah.
I know.
There's
I'm
a
just
big price tag to
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, we've got a range of options from, really assuming no extra cost to it and just say, look, it was convenient to have it,
It is right.
but,
Yeah.
and continue to examine the process and say, okay, maybe we can do this, but let's not be hasty about jumping
All right.
into
Well,
it.
let's go. So we're good here. I mean, obviously, if we're going to do something here, it's going to be right here somewhere.
Yeah, and I think there's clearly plenty of
There's
room.
space.
It's a matter of how
Well,
much
if
and
the
how much.
boundaries are where you
Well,
think they are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No. Right.
So let's-
That's having been said.
Yeah. I did make a phone call to one hauler today just to get an idea of space they like to see in spots.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of
and
went down to the existing dumpsters and kind of paced that out and
yeah.
looked at that, saying, okay, and looking at fitting that into this kind of space. It's, it could be done, but it's not like we're going to say, Brian, knock down these trees and pour some gravel in here. We're probably going to have to engineer this thing. And there's expenses associated with that, and whatever permitting process we're going to have to follow through on it. We're
that's
sitting on the site of an old dump, You want to really
Was
think.
this actual dumping area?
I-
I don't.
you know,
I don't
I'm-
remember.
Like I say, there was a small house up there where the dump keeper lived, and you kind of came in here, and it's hard to tell. I don't have a sufficient recollection.
Probably wasn't a whole lot of.
Probably
layout.
older aerial photographs that would show us
Right.
reasonably. But the other thing, if we chose not to disturb it, not to dig it out, but to layer on top of it, then that might be much less of an
Right.
issue. It would
But we
just
wanna
be how
know
to
that
approach it.
before we,
Yes.
hack into this.
Yeah.
And just sort of
Yeah.
dump some gravel on it, and turn it into a parking lot. As easy as that would be.
And I think you might have just been saying this, but the footprint is bigger than one.
Yeah.
It's probably pretty substantial by the time you measure it out and put fencing and have enough room for a truck to turn around and so on and so forth. It's not a small space. But again, if the boundaries are what they are, we probably have room. It's just quite a bit of something involved.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, the only other part I worry about is like during the winter. You know, there's times where it's 4 or 5 hours where we don't even come down in this road because you shouldn't have to. I mean, we're the only ones that come in here, so, you know, if somebody decides to do the recycling or they decide to pick up and then you come down in and there's a car sideways in the middle of the road and you need to get back, what do? Do you pull them out? If you do pull them out and something happens, who's at fault? There's definitely going to be some headache that goes along with it if we put it here on our part.
Yeah.
And you know, you can always say the worst, that the worst probably would never happen, but it could.
The other thing that's going to have to be managed no matter where it is, because right now Wyndham Solid Waste picks up on certain days every week. So it's like 3, they do 6 trips. So that a container might not be full, but they still pick it up because they just have that schedule. So for this type of setup, no matter where it is, somebody's going to need to keep track of that container.
Because call for pickup is going to be a more efficient way.
Is going to be a more
of dealing with
efficient
it.
way to do it.
Absolutely.
But that's, you know, it's
an extra project for
I
Brian
mean,
coming in the morning.
Goes with Lenny's job, right?
Right. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know it sounds like little things, but all of those little
they
things
all
add up.
add up to really,
Right.
yeah, and
It adds up to going into the dumping business,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
into the waste
if
management
everybody
business.
was just respectful and did what they needed to do, it would be one thing, but it's just not the way it is.
There's always a few bad eggs.
There is. And they ruin it for all the good people.
We get
but-
stuff dumped down here, and it's not even a spot where people come into all the time. I can't imagine what it's going to be like if they come
Well,
down
I
here to
do think-
recycle.
I
and,
do think that cameras are going to be a huge
Yeah.
deterrent
Yeah, I would agree.
to some of that, and the follow through of us making sure somebody gets in trouble if it happens.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
I know
Now-
at Brattleboro they have cameras there by the high
Yeah.
school. I mean, that are visible. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
No, the other thing we probably have to do is put some lighting out here.
Yeah.
Motion sensor lighting.
yeah,
and
depending on what we decide to do, if it's open all the time.
if
or
it's
not.
open all the time, then we have to have some lighting. So.
I mean, I know in Westminster they didn't have lighting because it wasn't open at night.
I would.
Just had a
But-
gate.
And they
I'd
close the
I'd put a
gate.
gate.
Yeah,
Up,
they
I'd put a
close the
gate up
gate.
there and have it closed.
That would be
you
a
know,
possibility too.
From 6 to 6 or something like that. You know,
But then again, on the weekend, who's going to
Who's-
open
yeah.
it and who's
No.
going to close it? And
that's true.
Yeah.
All Putney residents get a passcode.
And then they hand it out to everybody
Right.
they know.
They sell it.
No, and that's the other thing we should definitely find out is whether it is just by default of being part of the district, whether it is open to everybody. We
It-
should
it
just
wouldn't
get
be now.
confirmation on that.
It wouldn't be now
do you
because
mean?
we're paying for it.
Right,
Before,
but
when
if-
they were providing it as part of the assessment and we were a regional provider, then yes.
So this question of people from Saxon's River coming in.
yeah, I think we
we
can limit
can-
who, yeah.
Oh, so there's the answer to that question, I think, of how many, you know, if we just base it strictly on households, and not that we're not going to get some people, but, you know, if we had signage saying limited to Putney residents only and cameras, et cetera, that's going to limit that pretty significantly. But, yeah,
That's my favorite spring sound.
keepers.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's go back. to the-
So we'll table this topic till we're back at the office, is that?
Adjourn briefly and return to the main office. Joe's back at Town Hall. We met briefly at the town garage site looking at the possibility of recycling bin relocation. Do we have any other adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay.
I thought there might be one, but there wasn't.
If not, we'll take a motion to approve the minutes of April 12th, 2017. So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 12th. Any questions or corrections? All in favor? Aye.
We also, the minutes you sent us were the minutes from Denise,
Sorry.
which was different, so that would
Yeah.
have been
I put a note. I forgot about that meeting. I didn't even know the minutes were done. So I sent you those, not the April 12th.
Yeah, so we don't have a copy of that here,
Oh, so
so
then
we
maybe you
can't
shouldn't
approve
approve.
them now, right?
Well, that's what he just approved.
No,
No, that would have been on
That's
19th.
these.
These are the 12th.
These are the April.
this is last week, 12th, and then it was on.
Oh, so I did send you the right ones according to the agenda. Yeah.
No, you sent us the other ones.
Oh,
Or the
on the
ones I
email
saw.
I did? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Well, so then you can't approve them.
The other ones we can't.
No, I didn't even warn those. So
Right,
you're right,
exactly.
yeah.
So we can't.
Are you
so
okay
we
with
can't
these? Did
approve
you get a
these.
chance to
Yeah.
even read them?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I gotcha. Sorry.
All right. No.
All right. Do we want? There's some Chamber of Commerce.
I will do that towards the end.
Okay, I was gonna say
We've got a lot
that.
of others.
Like-
She couldn't make it
Let's
tonight. I was just gonna give you a brief
Go
overview of what
directly
they
to
know.
the excavator bid and also the dump truck bid. We will need action on.
Okay. So the excavator bid, we received 2 bids. They are one from Milton Cat and the other one from Nortrax, and you have a copy of the summary in there. Milton, when Brian sent the request out, he sent it out and got a price without a blade and with. So on the summary, you'll see the different prices for those 2 distinctions. Milton came in at $152 without a blade. Nortrax for the John Deere came in at $153.1 without. With the blade, it came in at $163 for Milton Cat and $161.9 for Nortrax. So remember, we're leasing this piece of equipment, so the lease payment came in at $16,978, which we budgeted $17,000
Annually.
annually. Yep.
Right. For 10 years.
For 10 years. Nortrax came in at $18,210.98. That's without the blade. With the blade, it came in. The Cat came in at $18,204, and the John Deere came in at $19,257. Those are annual lease payments. The overall price of both of the excavators are fairly even. It's just the interest rate was quite a bit different. One's at 2.5%, the other one's at 4%. There is an extended warranty that we want to buy. We want to have at least 5 years on the excavator. The Cat comes with a 3-year. There is a question that I have. He didn't call me back today. We can buy an extended warranty 5-year for $1,100, and the way that he wrote the letter, it's confusing to me. It seems like the way he wrote it, it seems like it's 5 years on top of the 3, but we're not quite sure that that's really what it meant. So I'm trying to get that that distinction. But
It's good value if it was. $1,100
Yeah,
for 5 of this.
yeah.
years.
So I'm thinking there's a 4-year at $400. I don't know, I gotta wait for that call, but we're going to buy an extended warranty. So, I mean, we're recommending that we go with the Cat. The payment is right within our range. We will put in a little bit extra money up to the $1,100 for an extended warranty for this 1 year. But I'll let Brian talk to you about the blade distinction.
And I don't remember what was in the article. What were we approved for? It
There was no article, it was part of our budget.
Oh, that's right.
17,000.
17,000 per year. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't know. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go for it, Brian.
Yeah, I guess really the only thing is just the difference between a blade or not. When we originally started, that's kind of the way I was leaning is with, just because it's handy, but a bigger reason than that is if we have one with a blade, they have one on site, because that's the way they always order them is with blades. If we have one without, we actually have to order it, which means you don't know when you get it. It could be September before you get it, which is, you know, kind of typical. Like with the backhoe, I mean, the grader was different because they had that, but with the backhoe, you know, it showed up in September, or, you know, I'm not exactly sure when, but I'm pretty sure it was sometime in September, which, you know, kind of ruins your whole summer as far as what you had planned, which it's not a huge deal, but
Do you really think it'll take that long?
it all depends. He said he looked at it on, this was a couple weeks ago, he looked at it and it wouldn't be that long, but he said it just depends. There's so many different cat dealers in the country that if all of a sudden all of them order something, then it just gets bumped, you know, and there's just so many dealers that he couldn't even give me an answer of really when, but he thought, you know, probably definitely by September, so. Which, like I said, it's not a huge deal. If, you know, if we're gonna try to stay within the 17,000, then, you know, it is what it is, but. I think the value of that blade being on there and the resale value of what you're gonna get for that size machine and what somebody's gonna want on a resale, it's gonna be, you know, it's worth the extra money, but.
Just for our purposes of thinking this through, are you leaning towards a Cat or towards the John Deere?
I was leaning towards a Cat. The John Deere actually is a little bit bigger of a machine, and actually for what you get for the machine, it's really actually probably a better value. The trouble is with it is it's a little bit too big. It's the Cat has a reduced tail swing, which means you can set in one lane and still maintain one lane traffic, whereas the other one you're gonna have to be over. It's got a longer boom on it, so it's in the wires more, and it's just, I mean, it's a really good value. That John Deere, that's a, you know, I think he had to sharpen his pencil really to get it to that, because he knew that he had to bid a little bit bigger machine because he didn't have one same as the Cat, you know, apples per apples, size per size, but, you know, the minimum spec was that, and Cat had it, and John Deere had to go with the next size bigger, so.
But that difference, the 2.5% to the 4%
Yeah.
interest makes a big
Right.
difference too. I mean,
Plus
that's basically $1,000.
Yeah, and I
The without
$1,000
blade
a year.
lease payment is the same as the with, you know, with
Right.
blade on the Cat. And you want to have the capacity, the blade capacity. I mean, we don't want to get this piece of equipment without that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's you know, then we're back to bringing more equipment to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Specific
you know,
jobs
we
and
the way I spec'd it, you have a 5-foot grade all bucket with it, so, and they switch.
You can live without a
They
blade.
switch very
Yeah.
fast, and you could. I would certainly live without the blade, but, you know, if you look at resale value and look at, you know, and the bigger thing more than the actual use of it would be the time frame of which you get it. I would really like to be able to go to town meeting
I'd say we did.
next year and I kept a really good record of last summer and how much work we got done and be able to go and say, this is what we got done this year, having a full summer with it. But obviously it's over, it's over the 17 and.
Brett's got a question.
I just was curious which company had the 4.5% or 4% to 2.5. That
The
wasn't
Deere is the 4%.
okay.
And it alters the annual payment by roughly $1,000.
Yeah, I kind of noticed the numbers, but I didn't, without doing the math in my head, I guess.
And so your impression was this 5-year warranty that's not going to increase our annual payment by that much. That's a one-time deal.
And we didn't get
Because
a
that's
quote. So
It's
let
a
me
not
read this.
insignificant difference between the warranty too. I mean, the Cat is a 3-year warranty. The Deere is a 4,000 hour 5-year warranty. I mean, we're not likely to put We're not
No.
gonna put anywhere near
I-
1,000 hours on in a year, are you?
Cat actually came with, theirs was 1,000 hour per year warranty is what they based it on, and I actually called them back and had them adjust it because I adjusted
gonna
it back
put
to
that-
500 to try to, cause that,
Maybe
This-
extend it out a little bit longer.
yeah, I don't remember exactly what the number was
Yeah.
on all of them, but I remember the 7-year warranty, it was like $4,700 for Cat, and by adjusting the hours back, I think it dropped to what,
Shifted it down.
28, 26, 28,
Well,
whatever it was.
26 for 3,500 hour. But, so this is what it says. Please use the below additional cost for extended warranty over the 3 years included. And then it goes 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, 7-year.
That's pretty clear. That doesn't mean it's not a mistake.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's pretty clearly indicating,
yeah.
So,
So
if
we'll
that-
go to the 4-year if
if that's-
this is a mistake.
If that's the case, yeah, you go with the 4-year, which I think is what, $400.
if it's
If
not,
it's not a
it's
mistake.
not a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
and that was put us at 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That, at 500 per year,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And you're pretty comfortable that 500 a year,
I think
that's
so.
probably,
You
it's not
know,
gonna go way beyond that, maybe in one or,
yeah.
maybe in.
It's probably vary, you know, you have
Yeah.
a year where you put 700, you have a year where you put 400,
Yeah,
you know, you
exactly.
just,
Yeah,
if you get a flood and you're just in the thing nonstop, you know,
yeah,
you might put 1,000 on it, but that's
Yeah.
kind of the,
gamble.
yeah.
I mean, I think as far as the payment goes, the $1,200 more a year than what we have budgeted, I think probably, especially if we can have this machine for the summer, and if we, I know there's some ifs, if we get that grant for the Sand Hill, there's some money in there that is actually helping us pay
Make up
for
some
this
of that.
piece of
Yeah.
equipment, quite a bit actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
So-
I figured.
But we are looking at 10 years, so we're
Right.
looking at that
Well, yeah.
$1,200. I mean, it's, you know, half of me says it's only $1,200 a year, the other half says, yeah, it's $1,200 a
Right.
year. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
But I would tend to agree with Scott. I don't think it's probably worth buying it without the blade. I mean, you know, there's the time frame issue, but also, you know, especially if you're cleaning up a road,
Yeah.
a blade's awfully
Right.
nice to have, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just is,
And the other thing is, you know, if you're lifting something heavy with it, you put
You
that
could
blade
set it
down,
down,
and
yeah.
it, you know,
Anchors you.
stability, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of good to it. I mean, it's, like I said, you know, I run them without a blade all the time, and I get along with it fine. And then they have one with a blade, and so you just adjust to what you have. It's not like it's a terrible machine because it doesn't have one, but
different utility.
it'd be awfully nice and to have one.
But you're comfortable that we can come up with that 1,200
yeah, in this budget.
in this budget, and then going forward, we would just budget for it, is that correct?
Yeah.
So the only sort of downside of that is that it wasn't part of the discussion at town meeting in which
Right.
it was approved. for
But that's what this
special.
whole lease concept
Right.
is that every
Right.
year we get the chance to re-look at it.
I suppose that's true.
And
Yeah.
then that's where the lease,
Yeah,
the language in the lease has to say that it's contingent on annual funding.
right,
we went into that without the trailer consideration as well, you know, which we're finding the money for that
Yeah.
out of this
Yeah.
budget as well.
Yeah,
So I think we can probably find the 1,200.
all right, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the excavator with the blade from Milton Cat, the Caterpillar. Contingent upon clarification of the extended warranty issue. But that if it's as it appears, then we go ahead.
We would go with the 7 years, in other words, the 500
yeah,
hours.
500 hours over 7 years, which would only add, what did you
The
say?
400.
$400
Yeah.
instead of per year.
yeah.
No, not per year. 400.
No, 400.
400 total for an additional 4-year More than 4 years warranty.
Totally upset they can
I can't
possibly
either.
do that.
Yeah, I think it might not. I don't know.
Something's got
I'm not sure because you call John Deere or Cat and have them come down with a service truck and it's $600
Yeah.
just to get them here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't, you know.
But dropping it to the 500, that's probably the big difference. I mean,
Yeah, oh, for sure.
because the total, they're looking probably more at the total hours than
Yeah.
they are at the number of
Yeah.
years, because it's not, the number of years doesn't matter that
Right.
Yeah,
much, nearly as much as the hours do,
Yeah.
so.
yeah. They're knowing that, you know,
The
they're probably
likelihood
not,
of you having problems within 3,500 hours are
it's pretty low.
really low.
Yeah.
So, they're,
Especially anything major.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you might have, you know,
Some
you never know, but.
there's always some little
Yeah.
issues, but.
Okay, second?
Okay. We've moved and seconded to authorize the purchase, the lease, excuse me, not the purchase of the new excavator from the Milton Caterpillar. Milton Cat is the dealer. In the amount of, do we want to put the amount in?
18,204 accepted as a friendly amendment.
And with clarification of the extended warranty, which Cynthia, you will pursue that.
So if it's,
I mean, if it changes drastically, I'll let you guys
well,
know.
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about it,
Yeah.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but other than that, we're
Yeah.
awarding the lease to Milton Cap. Any other questions, additions?
Not for me, no.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Got a new machine?
All right,
Now, something to
Checkbook
haul it
balance,
around
that's
on,
all we're
right?
doing tonight is just
click through.
spending money. Dump truck bid's gonna be a lot easier.
Right, was there any info on the?
There's one sheet in there from Patriot Freightliner. They were the only bidder. Should we find it?
Why is that?
I think it has something to do with they know they're so close that
Yeah,
they know
not bother, yeah.
you wanna go with the one that is close, cause that's
And
where
you're
you're gonna
doing
go for
west.
service, so you get treated. You know, if you buy one up north and then you go there for service, you
Right,
gotta know you're gonna not get treated quite as well.
Yeah.
I would think, I don't know.
So, we had asked, the article was for up to 175,000. The quote came in at 166,117 with a trade-in of 22,500 for, the truck we're trading in. Let's see, warranty is 7 years, 150,000 miles. All that's outlined there, and then the buyback, the guaranteed buyback at 10 years was 50,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how many years?
guaranteed buyback at 10 years?
10 years?
Yeah. He gave us some prices for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, and 10 years, and 10 years is 50,000, which is what we schedule for replacement of our trucks.
That's better than they've ever given us on the max.
Well, it's because it's a 10-wheeler.
It's, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's about, I mean, we got 22.5 for the trade, so
Right,
You
so
know.
it's
28,000 more.
different, yeah.
So, and the
And the truck is about 28,000, yeah.
yeah, it's
About the difference.
it's almost even, you know,
Oh,
as
interesting.
compared to trading a
Hmm.
single axle for single axle is. So,
So, not much to choose from here.
No,
Okay.
so I'll make a motion that we award the bid to the one and only bidder, Patriot Freightliner, in the amount of $166,117 for the purchase of a new tandem axle Western Star and Fairfield plow package.
All right, second.
All right, moved and seconded that we're going to award the contract to purchase a new tandem axle Western Star cab and chassis with a Fairfield plow package. and a 7-year, 150,000 engine warranty for the price of $166,117. Any questions, additions, changes? If not, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
I guess if I look at it, does virtual tech service mean that they just
Virtually.
It actually does. They actually,
Doesn't it?
They
Yeah, right,
they
it
email me.
speaks directly
Yeah.
to,
If something goes wrong
Right.
with the truck, they sense it and they'll email me, and it'll come right to my phone.
Javier and
So
Do they sense it if you're driving too
Right.
fast?
well, if your refrigerator can record
Nah.
you,
I turned that one off. No, I haven't had it happen yet because we haven't had anything with the new truck or anything, and so, but you know, it's
could be useful.
yeah, I think it's 2 years. It's free,
2 years,
so
right, yeah.
you know,
late at night,
Right,
some
right.
night plowing, and the radio speaks out, it says Brian.
Go to sleep.
yeah. Hey,
But that must be a brand name that's V.
I know, I never say.
Poor Chinese.
Yeah. All right.
Trademark issue. All right.
Maybe we should skip over recycling and have that last and just keep awarding contracts and bids to
Okay.
people. How about that?
Oh, yeah. What's next? The sidewalk?
Yeah.
Or do we want to finish up with Brian and let him go? 'Cause we-
Is there anything else?
Well,
he needs to-
we were going to come back this week, in 2 weeks, and answer the question about the trailer.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really put that on there.
I know. I
Because we
realize
haven't found anything better.
that. Right,
Yeah.
and we stated that we would
Yeah.
resolve that if that was the case.
Yeah.
And we,
So just maybe quickly review us
I mean,
again.
did we,
I kind of left it last time that if we didn't find anything better, we were going to get the new trailer.
right,
Right.
but we didn't actually,
Make a motion.
we
on
didn't
it.
actually make a motion on
No.
No,
No.
that. Okay, so
let's always move forward and purchase.
can
the
we
petition warrant.
do that without having warned it or adjusted it?
Probably shouldn't, but we
Right.
probably need to move ahead and tell him we want it, right?
I mean, he called me
He's not gonna sit,
twice, and he was like,
Yeah, go ahead.
make a motion to approve the purchase of excavator trailer, Eager Beaver brand, located in Rochester, New Hampshire.
Okay, second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to purchase a trailer for the excavator lease from Eager Beaver in Rochester, New Hampshire for the price of $16,900. Any other questions or additions to that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you've got all your stuff.
You've got a whole new set
Merry
of
Christmas.
toys.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Now you didn't know there's probably no money for fuel to run them, but
oh no, yeah, plenty of that. Do you want me to stay for the recycling discussion?
I think,
or?
no, because I think that, to me, the next task is to find out some permitting and logistical stuff up there. And then I have some work I'm doing as far as trying to find out, some other things, like working with maybe the town of Rockingham and seeing if there's opportunity for the town of Putney to use that facility as well as having a facility in Brattleboro. And so maybe some of the money could go towards that instead of us having something here. So that's a discussion I'm having, and
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest to Brian is that you just, whether you specifically think it through right away or not, but spend a little time thinking about what would need to be done in there and whether that's something you're likely to be able to do, and what you think the trade-off would be as far as your ability to do it in a timely fashion, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I don't know how you guys think it's gonna work. Is it fair to say that if the highway department does the work with the equipment and the money for the material comes out of the 40,000,
Right, something along those lines.
something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking.
yeah,
If that was the case.
okay. Just
Yeah,
keep
we'll-
it in,
we'll-
keep it in the back of your mind. and
Before
as
the
it-
next
as we
meeting,
go
we'll try to
forward,
work
we'll
on
have an
something
idea.
that
Yeah.
gives, kind of a idea.
I mean, and we can presumably, purchase of material would be highway department, would be, out of that 40, so, and then
Yeah.
fencing, signage, et cetera, would be, and we'd probably have to just contract that out. I don't think
Yeah.
we necessarily hold you guys responsible for that.
Yeah.
But,
So I don't know if there's really much more to talk about with the recycling other than me gathering some more information. Rockingham might come up with, our facilities open these times and Putney residents can come there, but the town, you pay us so much a year or whatever. And that may be that would be enough for people to have that facility and the facilities I don't know that. That's just a thought that I had.
Do you mean the one right near Bells Hills High School? Just
Well,
before
yeah,
there,
right before there,
right
yeah.
before there. Mhm.
Yeah, it was just because they take trash there too, but
Yeah, they have scales,
I
yeah.
think everything, brush,
Yeah.
Yeah.
brush,
yep.
So,
leaves.
salvage some stuff.
could be
Yeah.
maybe an agreement, we pay an assessment to them,
Mhm.
I don't know how people would feel about that. So that's something that I'm kind of tossing around and,
That would be, well, not necessarily, but probably fairly geographically limited to those. For me, if I'm considering Brad or going that way, I'm going to Brad.
Right.
Because it's all a lot easier, but if you're looking out on River Road,
yeah,
you might well go the other way, so.
Yeah.
And I know that there would be a huge amount of volume headed that direction, but it
Yeah, I
might be
know.
helpful for some people to have that option. All right,
yeah, so I don't know if there's much more to talk about that anyways, other than this, there's some work that needs to be, it was more of just trying to, let's get up there and even
see
see
what
it.
See what we
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
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 So,
Okay,
So I'm all set.
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Behave.
Phase 2 sidewalk.
Lock your truck tonight.
Inspection engineer bid,
Yes.
and that is,
So, in order to move ahead with the construction of the phase 2 section of the sidewalk, we have to award 2 bids tonight. The first one is for the construction inspection services. We got these back on February 9th. And I gave a package to Scott to look at it. Erica Roper, who is the Wyndham Regional Commission Transportation Planner, and myself, we all took it separately. We weren't, we didn't even sit in a room and talk about it. We all ended up with Pathways having the highest score. We used a score sheet on different, and then I opened the cost proposals on March 30th, and Pathways was the low bidder. They were at
And that's-
$24,980.
And that's not a misprint for Dubois and King?
That is not a misprint.
Wow.
Yeah, they came in at 84.
Yeah, that was
it
it.
was a lot, 84,000. And then the other one came in at 28,684. That was John Turner Consulting. So it's my recommendation to award the contract to Pathways. It would be Jeff Durrell, who
And
would be.
we've worked with
We
Pathways
worked with them
before
before.
and had a good experience and.
I did look at the
They were
budget
good,
today. We budgeted around 19,000 for construction inspection service, so it's a little over what we have budgeted, but
so
not crazy. Oh yeah, it wasn't.
There's
No.
not much we can do about it.
No.
84,000.
Yeah. That's a big number.
that is,
It's almost.
Shocking. 3 times.
It's like-
3 times as much.
Yeah.
yeah, and did not
It's a
seem
third
like
of the
it
cost of
was
the sidewalk.
3 times as much being offered for what price tag.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Pathways in Lebanon, New Hampshire to be the construction and inspection service for the sidewalk phase 2.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to award the sidewalk phase 2 sidewalk inspection engineer to Pathways of Lebanon, New Hampshire, in the amount of $24,980. Any changes, any additions to that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The contractor itself,
Yes.
and we still only got two.
We still only got two. This is the second time we've gone out to bid, but both bids were considered competitive and in conformance with all of the bid requirements. So it's the recommendation of the state and of RSG to award the bid to the low bidder, which is Twin State Utility Corp. And their bid was $271,835. Zaluzny Excavating was $297,110. The engineer's estimate was $290,203. So Twin State actually came in less than what the engineer's estimate was. And I can tell you where Twin State is out of. I think, somewhere here. So Twin State Utility they have an office in Bristol, New Hampshire, and Heartland, Vermont.
And they are pre-approved by the state.
They are pre-approved by the state of Vermont.
And we are required to take the low bid, or
We are,
not?
yes.
So I will make a motion that we award the bid for construction of phase 2 of the sidewalk to Twin State Utility Corp. in the amount of $271,835.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to award the Phase 2 sidewalk contract to, construction contract to Twin State Utilities in the amount of $271,835. Any changes, additions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
So the next, just to tell you guys, the next step in this is to sign the contract, set up a construction pre-construction meeting, and decide on the schedule. I've emailed Greg Wilson because we want to work closely with him. His business is the one that's going to be impacted most by this project. So we're going to try to work, and I've talked to the contractor about it, try to work as much around that schedule as we can. There's obviously going to be some conflict. Not much we can do about it, but. So that should be happening soon.
Was there an estimate, the time estimate, the length of the project?
The length of this phase of the
Yeah,
project?
phase 2, yeah.
No, because when we did it, we kind of gave this huge time frame between April and October. We wanted it done, but we haven't narrowed down like an actual 6-week, 8-week.
Okay.
I can't be, it's really not that big of a project. So I don't think it's gonna be.
And remind me what we're doing in front of the old fire department. We're not doing a whole lot because
if we
of
put
the
the
bridge
sidewalk in,
construction,
when they do the
right,
bridge
right.
construction, they would have torn it out.
Right,
So
right.
we changed the plans to include,
So
Some
it
type of
probably
striping
includes
and
the
that kind of
crosswalk,
stuff.
et cetera, but no actual infrastructure
right.
on
There's
the
something there
west
that
side of it.
delineates a walking area, but it's
Right.
not
The
actual.
permanent
Yeah.
structure.
Yep.
So we are, the last things on new business with the Chamber of
Yeah, so I
Commerce
just wanted
presentation.
to, I asked the director of the Chamber of Commerce, and this is the Chamber, Greater Falls Region Chamber, which is based out of Bellows Falls. They sent this packet of information to us, and I wanted her to come talk to the board about it, more to just get the word out that the town of Putney is actually, not the town, the municipality, but the town of Putney is a member of this chamber. This regional chamber covers Putney.
And Is there any other chamber that we're part of? I mean, like greater, okay, so
Yeah.
this is our
Yeah,
chamber of
the
commerce.
region, yeah.
Right.
So I am going to have her come back. I have started to reach out to some of the businesses already just to let them know, because there are people I didn't know that Putney was part of this chamber. I knew it from maybe a year or two ago. I hadn't heard
remember
it.
hearing it, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But if anybody wants information, I have information. They can contact the Greater Falls Regional Chamber. It's Doreen Studley is the executive director, and she'd be happy to help any business become a part of it. I think the membership for a small business is like $180 a year. They'll be on their website. The advantages to being in a chamber, especially for small businesses, is they can get group discounts, health insurance, that kind of thing through this. Lots of publicity. They hold mixers where businesses come and they bring their products, they auction them off, so there's lots of networking that's done through the chamber. So they're really trying to do a push, and that's why they sent this out, to get the businesses to know that they're available, they're a resource to them. So that information is in my office if anybody wants it.
All right, and what's the IRS update?
I wanted to let you guys know, we haven't talked about the IRS for a while. So I tackled some of the issues that I felt were still lingering. One of them was a bill that we had on the 2011 W-2s that we originally had that really large penalty on. And I had called, they sent us a new bill for like $3,400. I had called them back in November and they...
What was it originally?
$42,000.
So that's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. So, back in November, I had originally been told that the reason we got the $3,400 bill was there was a mismatch of either the W-2, W-3, 941s for 2011. Once the W-2s were filed, which was the first penalty, and that I had to send the information, corrected information, everything had to match, had to be sent back to the IRS. Well, at that point, I couldn't find any of the documentation. It kind of went on for a little while. During the clean out and everything's being, organized, we found the W-2s. I went through everything matched. So I made an appointment, I went to the IRS. The IRS agent down there told me that the reason we got the bill wasn't because of mismatched, it was because we filed them late. So I kind of went back and forth with her a little bit and said, well, if I had known that, I would have asked for the abatement back in November. I was waiting to find these papers. So, very long story short, I sent everything to the IRS with a please, we're just a little tiny municipality, we can't absorb this amount of money in our budget, this was the reason it happened. We did get 2 different answers from 2 different IRS agents. And, is there anything you can do so that went out this week, so hopefully that they'll show us a little bit of mercy, told them what we were doing, the new processes we had in place, we're hiring a bookkeeper. So we'll see how that goes. It's probably gonna take a while before we hear anything. While I was down there, I did ask her, what are the outstanding issues that are left? And we've cleared up. That was it. That was the only one. So unless we get something from this point, something else might pop up, but no, it'll be handled much quicker, yeah. So I just wanted to update you on that. So there is a possibility that there's still a $3,400 bill lingering out here, but until, they give us a definitive answer on the abatement that I asked for, we'll just not do anything with that. So that was by the time I got out of there, I was like, oh, thank God I didn't leave here with a list.
Better,
Yeah. So that was that.
Okay. Do we want to continue with the recycling discussion, or
I don't know that
hang
you
on
guys
until
feel
you
like we need to,
feel like we
or
pursue a little further
I
information?
think I need to get you some more information.
Okay, well then we will.
Yeah, I
Table
think it was
that for
more
now.
of just really looking at that space
Yeah.
up there tonight and starting the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, town manager's report.
So I have a few things. I wanted to let you guys know that I have a student from the Putney School. She is a senior that called me about doing an art project. So she is going to be painting a mural on the side of the pool house building.
Oh.
She's so excited. Shannon, I think her first name's Shannon, but I have to. But she is, yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch her do it because she's so excited. So I said to her, I'm giving you pretty much, we went over some designs and stuff. I said, but just, it is ugly, just make it better.
Make it brighter.
So that'll be fun for and she'll do that, I think in May, so it'll be ready for when the pool opens. And I just wanted to let you know that the Vermont League, I don't know if I told you guys this, but the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns does a quilt. Did I tell you this story? And I put the word out there that Putney, they need a quilt. They've got quilt squares from each town, and Putney isn't represented. So I found a resident that's going to make us a quilt square. So we'll do which is a pretty big deal for, I looked at it and I'm like, we're not even on there.
So wait, what does it do?
It just, it hangs
it
and
just
it,
adds to
and
it.
yeah.
Cool.
So I have somebody that volunteered to do that.
Who's that?
Lynn Meyer.
Lynn Meyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's gonna work on that. And then on kind of a more not so happy note, I'm sure you guys heard about the truck that was, one of our trucks was stolen last night, the 2004 Dodge Dakota. Night before. From the treatment plant. It's the one that Joe drives around. So that was stolen, but then recovered the next morning. But there is significant damage to the truck. So we got everything back, but
Significant,
like dents and headlights out and tires pretty well torn up and
it was involved in
little
4 other
off-wheeling.
thefts.
yeah. I don't even know how many because at this point
at
right
least
now
4,
they're getting calls.
4 other what incidents?
Thefts,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did talk to the trooper that is working on the case. The person has been arrested. I believe he's up at the Springfield Correctional Center. He has a number of charges, but at this point they don't think anybody else was involved, but they're not 100% sure. And they did ask that if anybody thought that something was missing. There were some people that don't even know, Brian didn't even know his wallet. That Brian's truck got rifled through and his wallet was stolen, so he didn't even know that was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, to look through cars, I guess this person was rifling through cars all night long. So you might have something missing that you don't even know about because there are some items that they don't know who they belong to. So I found out today that it wasn't, he also did steal, there was a pump from there. It was like a $2,000 pump that was in the truck. There was some tools at the time that I got the report yesterday. I didn't, when that happens, you're not really sure what's missing. So that kind of came about after. So it would have been pretty significant for us had we not gotten it back.
Those
have
been
been
recovered.
Yeah.
And will our insurance cover the damage?
I talked to them today. They will. It will, and they will work on recovering that money through restitution or they'll try to recover that money, and they'll do that for us. I am going to get in touch with the state's attorney because they assign a victim's advocate to anybody that has something like this happen, so that we can be updated on what happens to this person. They may call us as witnesses. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
This was a Putney resident, do we know?
I think so.
Well, it's hard to tell because if you see the reports, there's one report that says he has a Ludlow residence as well. But yes, he's living in that.
Putney.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that led us to a pretty significant discussion this morning about cameras. We are going to work on getting some quotes for the town garage, which we have cameras at the town garage right now. We just need better cameras. And cameras at the fire station and cameras at the treatment plant for now. And if we have to, we talked about the library, but really I'm more worried about the bigger equipment right now. And the library and here, there are cameras at other buildings in this town that are pointed towards our building, so we're a little bit covered there. So
We might want to, if you're exploring that, you might want to just explore having an extra camera at the highway department in case for the recycling, if we were choosing to do that.
So there is another round of passive grants coming out that we will try to apply for some of that money for cameras. It never even crossed our mind in this last round. Yeah, so that's going to be happening, which is no fun. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know is that Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust asked if I could send a letter to Vermont Community Development Program today, just asking for an extension on our May 1st deadline to the project on Putney Landing Road. And the reason for the extension is the right-of-way access issue that they're working through as far as Putney Landing Road. They feel like they'll get it resolved in the next 30 days, but they wouldn't have met that.
Takes a period of time. Right.
So I sent that off today. I wanted to hand these out. We'll be discussing these at the next meeting. The fire department formed a committee to review volunteer, or lack thereof, volunteer. Started with kind of a, let's look over the past 20 years, what the history has been. They came up with this draft report that they wanted to present to the select board. So at the May 10th meeting, we will be talking about this. There are some changes to this that we're going to make, so you'll see, you know, and anything you guys have for suggestions over the next couple weeks if you see something that should be changed. But it's pretty lengthy, so I figured I should pass it out a couple weeks before.
Is this one you had last week?
Yeah. And let's see. I'm gonna give this to Scott. My employee review needs to be done. I'm not really sure I got one from anybody last year.
Well, it's my responsibility to have done. I already have one.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get one?
You gave me one
Like when now?
6 weeks ago.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, maybe 2 months ago. So I'll work on that.
Okay.
All right, we'll give that back to me.
Well, no, that's good for a year from now.
Oh, he's not gonna, I'll give it back to me. I'll give it to you this
You're
year.
gonna start taking notes now.
I want to see the date. I wonder if there's a date on the.
I'm going to feel very
because it seems
confident
like it was
of
a
you
long
holding
time
on.
ago.
If it's going to be a year, please hold on to that.
All right. I don't, because I can't remember the last time, well, it says the last time I had one done was in 2013. We're almost ready for a new contract. Okay. So that, let's see. That's all that we have for, I didn't print a budget report tonight. And then the highway and book, I don't know why I put highway and bookkeeping under financial report, but I just wanted to give you an update. We sent out the highway worker, entry-level highway worker ad went out. Applications should be received back here by May 12th. There's a job description on our website. We've gotten a couple applications already.
Anybody that we know?
No.
No.
Well, one, yeah, but no, I got one in email today, I didn't know that person. And then I want to put out a ad tomorrow for the part-time bookkeeper position. Josh and I had talked a little bit about it this week. We happened to be chatting about some stuff, and there was some thought of maybe transitioning Laura to a full-time position there. I think we've decided we're just gonna keep things the way that we were headed. So Laura and I have been talking a lot about it, because right now she does a lot of the financial stuff anyways, and I do a lot of the financial stuff, and how is this gonna look? So we came up with a job description. We also included in this some clerical tasks like filing, helping with bulk mailings, helping with the town report. I put in there that during Property tax season, we may ask whoever this person is to work a few more hours than the 15. We'll have to see how it goes, just because that's the time when there's a lot of traffic in here. But the bulk of the work will be the financial stuff right now that has been being done by Anita. So that ad is going out tomorrow, and that return date is May 12th as well.
And do you want to let our viewers know, just like are there qualifications? Is it a certain level of experience?
Yeah, I mean, I put in
for?
here that he or she will work under the direct supervision of the town manager, finance director, and assist the administrative assistant and town treasurer. Clerical tasks will be assigned on an as-needed basis. It's a part-time position. Ideal candidate will have a degree in accounting or equivalent experience, excellent customer service skills, and high degree of attention to accuracy and attention to detail. I do want to stress that although a degree in finance or accounting would be nice, somebody with experience
Somebody who's
would
done it.
absolutely be
Doing accounting work
qualified.
for 40 years
Yeah.
wouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't want anybody that's thinking about this to think that that would hold us back. You know, the rate it's gonna, there's a lot of what I do when I try to find somebody for, the office or even the highway is just the dynamics of,
Right.
its personalities. And I'm not one that likes things, yes, I ask for it to be emailed, but if people want to stop here and talk to me, and I like to see people face to face and talk about it. I think it works better, so. So hopefully that position will start like the 3rd week in June. The highway position won't start till July 1st. So that's happening. Oh, the one thing I didn't put on here is to have a discussion about us closing for the carpets.
What's the date of that?
So next week, the 3rd, we're gonna be here, but we're gonna be moving stuff around, the smaller stuff, getting our computers unhooked, and we're setting up a couple computers in the lister's office so that I can work in there. And then Thursday, the movers will come in and move all the big stuff. Friday, the asbestos people come in, and then Saturday, the carpets are in, and then Monday, they move everything back in, the movers do. So Friday, we definitely are closed. Thursday, we're closed. Wednesday, we have limited access, and then Monday we'll reopen, but it's still gonna be limited. So one of the questions that came up is the days that we're closed and people can't work, I told them that they weren't vacation days because we're closed. That, because one of the questions was, well, what do we mark that down as? We're not gonna be here. And I didn't think it was fair to tell people you can't be in a building and work, but you also have to be charged a vacation day. I don't know, how do you guys feel about that?
No, I think that's our responsibility to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever the
We're-
proper
we're-
terminology.
We're putting them out of that. Is
Yeah,
there capacity
that's
to
the way
work?
I felt about it, but
Is
I
there
wanted
capacity to work from home?
some of it,
Somewhat.
mostly Laura and I could do that, probably more than the town clerk's office. What they do, they need to be here.
Right.
Yeah, so, we'll be here as much as I'll be here. I'm gonna be here early to
Well,
let movers in.
hopefully the weather's
and-
good, so you can just set up out on the parking lot. Right?
Well, I might go down to the fire station
Right,
and ask
right.
them all. I
Well,
don't know what I'm
that'd
gonna
be
do,
nice.
but, I have
The little shed across the way as well.
plenty of like paperwork stuff I could actually do at home, but,
No, I think that's
yeah, okay.
paid,
I told,
paid day off,
Across the board,
whatever
right.
it
Across
is.
from doing business.
yeah, and I think that's all I have.
Okay. We have some warrants to sign.
Yeah, they're right there.
Don't need an executive.
We do need an executive session, yes.
We do.
We'll take care of the warrants and
Yeah.
do that.
For a personnel issue, or personnel, however you want to word it, but.
So So I'll accept the motion to move into executive session. Do you want to sign the warrants first?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. They don't really need to film us signing them. So, so moved.
Yep, second.
Going into executive session?
No, there isn't anything that a
7:06.
decision needs to be made, no.
No action will be taken. And the executive session, do we?
For the reason
We're
of
inviting Cynthia,
Yes.
and it's for the purpose of discussion of personnel
personnel,
issue.
it's a personnel issue.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.